I want to start off with a story that I read this week, and just thought it was really good, powerful. We're dealing with the issue of love, and that's what we'll be still continuing on today with. But the story goes like this. I spent a week before my daughter's June wedding running my final trips to the caterer, the florist, the tuxedo shop, and the church about 40 miles away. As happy as I was that Patsy was marrying a good Christian young man, I felt laden with responsibilities as I watched my budget dwindle. So many details, so many bills, and so little time. My son Jack was away at college, but he said he would be there to walk his younger sister down the aisle, taking the place of his dad who had died a few years before. He teased Patsy, saying he wanted to give her away ever since she was about 3 years old. To save money, I gathered blossoms from several friends who had large magnolia trees. Their luscious, creamy white blooms, slick green leaves would make beautiful arrangements against the rich, dark wood inside the church. After the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, we banked the podium around and choir loft with magnolias as we just left before midnight. I felt tired but satisfied this would be the best wedding any bride could ever have. The music, the ceremony, the reception, and especially those flowers would be remembered for years to come. The big day arrived, the busiest day of my life, and while her bridesmaids helped Patsy to dress, her fiancé Tim walked me to the sanctuary to do a final check. Well, when we opened the door and felt a rush of hot air, I almost fainted. And then I saw them. All the beautiful white flowers were now black, funeral black. An electrical storm during the night knocked out the air-conditioned system. On that hot summer day, the flowers wilted and died. I panicked, knowing I didn't have time to drive back to our hometown to gather more flowers and return in time for the wedding. Tim turned to me, "Edna, can you get more flowers? I'll throw away all the dead ones and put fresh flowers in these arrangements." I mumbled, "Sure," as he bebopped down the hall to put on his cufflinks. Alone in the sanctuary, I looked up at the dark wooden beams in the arched ceiling. "Lord," I prayed, "please help me. I don't know anyone in this town. Help me find someone willing to give me flowers in a hurry." I scurried out praying for 4 things. The blessings of white magnolias, courage to find them in an unfamiliar yard, safety from any dog that may bite my leg, and a nice person who would not get out a shotgun when I asked to cut his trees to shreds. So I left the church. I saw magnolia trees in the distance. I approached a house, no dog in sight. I knocked at the door and an older man answered. So far, so good. No shotgun. When I stated my plea, the man beamed. I'd be happy to. He climbed a stepladder and he cut large bows and handed them down to me. Minutes later, as I lifted the last armload into my car trunk, I said, "Sir, you've made the mother of a bride very happy today." "No, ma'am," he said, "you don't understand what's happening here." "What's that?" I asked. He said, "You see, my wife of 67 years just died on Monday. On Tuesday, I received friends at the funeral home. On Wednesday," he paused. I saw tears starting to well up in his eyes. He said, "On Wednesday, I buried her." He looked away and then said, "On Thursday, most of my out-of-town relatives went back home, and on Friday, yesterday, my children just all left." I just nodded. "This morning," he continued, "I was sitting in my den crying out very loudly, 'I miss her so much. For the last 16 years, as her health got worse and worse, she needed me. But now nobody needs me.' This morning I cried. Who needs an 86-year-old worn-out man? Nobody." I just began to cry louder. "Nobody needs me." And right about that time, you knocked. And you said, "Sir, I need you." I stood with my mouth wide open. And he asked, "Are you an angel?" The way the light shone around your head into my dark living room, I assured him that I was no angel. He smiled. Do you know what I was thinking when I handed you those magnolias? No. He said, I decided I am needed. My flowers are needed. Why, I might have a flower ministry now. I could give them to everyone. Some caskets at the funeral. They have no flowers. People need flowers at times like that, and I have lots of them. They're all over the backyard. I can give them to hospitals, churches, all sorts of places. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to serve the Lord until the day that He calls me home. Then I drove back to the church filled with wonder on Patsy's wedding day. If anyone had asked me to encourage someone who was hurting, I would have said, forget it. It's my only daughter's wedding, for goodness sake. There's no way I can minister to anybody today. But God found a way through some dead flowers. Life is not the way that it's supposed to be. It's just the way it is. The way you cope with it is what makes the difference. And how true is that? But you know, you think of the ability to love, the ability to be kind, but the ability to hear the voice of God. And at times when we feel like nothing's going right and we cry out to God, how He answers our prayer. Because He's still the God of love. And that's what He does really, really well.
Awesome.
With that today, February, as I said, is almost finished. Our last week on this love series. So I thought I'd throw a curveball at you today. I love sports, and curveballs are wicked cool, as they say in Boston. But God's kind of wicked cool His own way too. And His love for us has no end. Now I was thinking that loving people is easy. How many of you know loving people is easy? When they're easy.
When they're easy, yeah.
It's those difficult people that have their own minds and thoughts that run contradictory to ours that can get frustrating at times. It's always nice to have things the way we think they should be. And, as you're thinking those thoughts, I feel for you. Really. We all have those people in our life. But unfortunately, it doesn't make them wrong. And it doesn't make us right. Not all conflict is unholy. Let me say that one more time. Not all conflict is unholy. A lot of times we think because somebody doesn't think like us, it makes them unholy. Never us, because we're holy. We know that. But sometimes conflict can be good if we allow it to be good. And we work through things. And we don't just quit. I titled this, How to Love an Enemy. I think sometimes in life we're quick to make enemies. But Jesus had a different take on the whole enemy thing, didn't He?
Oh, yeah.
Some of you right now, you have people that you're thinking of, they're racing through your mind that you don't like, and you're wondering how you're going to escape this sermon today. Look at somebody next to you and tell them you're probably not going to escape this.
You're not going to escape it.
God is good. He knows where we're at. But Jesus had a different take on enemies. It went like this. Matthew chapter 22, verse 34. I don't know if is that up there? Did you guys get that? This is from the New Living Translation. It says, when the Pharisees heard that He had silenced the Sadducees with His reply, they met together to question Him again. And one of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap Him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? Well, Jesus replied, you must love the Lord God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, but a second is equally as important, and that is love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. And the truth is, these two commandments are summed up like this: loving God and loving people. But what happens when those people are people we don't like? What happens when those are people that irritate us, make us angry, don't think like we do? They don't fit into our mold and how we do things. And, then all of a sudden things get real. It's different. It's harder. Loving God is easy. There's only one of Him. And He doesn't change. So the love we have, the connection we have with Him is just there. Loving people, on the other hand, it's kind of, wow. Where did so many varieties of different peoples come from? And why can't they just be more like me? How do we handle someone when they become our enemy? And I think as I was thinking about this more and more, the easy way out, of course, is to say, it's not my problem. Don't we do that? It's not my problem, it's their problem. I don't have an issue. How many times, now be honest, how many times have you said that? And we feel justified by that thought, really. But that thought alone makes us no better than them. So it's a kind of a give and take, maybe some ways. And then we do this, so you don't have an issue. But it's funny that you know there's an issue. So let's read a verse that will just mess you up a little bit. It's okay. God has a way of doing that. It's in Matthew chapter 5, verse 21. And it goes like this. You have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, then you're subject to judgment. But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call somebody an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you're in danger of the fires of hell. So, who's teaching here? Jesus. Say it. Jesus. This is Jesus teaching. He said, so if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and suddenly remember that someone has something against you. Now remember, you knew there was an issue. But it's not my issue. It's their issue. They need to work on that. Oh no, that's not what Jesus talks about. He says, if you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, then leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go and be reconciled to that person, then come and offer your sacrifice to God. But don't offer your sacrifice to God thinking that you're okay and they're not, and it's their issue. When you know that there's an issue, He said, you go. Look at somebody next to you, say, you go. Take that first step. Get out of your comfort zone. And even though you feel you don't have an issue, there's an issue. Have me say that? That's kind of good.
That's awesome.
Wish I didn't hear that though, but it's good.
I wish I did hear it.
Because it's that same thing. It's their issue, not mine. It's almost like we want to start talking to God about fairness. It's not fair, God, because look, I'm not angry. Even that dialogue itself shows that we're not all right. But I'm not angry. It's their problem. And I'm fine with God. Obviously, they're not. How do we know that? We just assume. Because somehow there's conflict. How am I supposed to know that they have an issue? Oh, you know. You just know. Do you know that the Lord has commanded us to love our enemies? I told you it's a curveball. It's bad. It's a big breaking curveball. The Lord has commanded us to love our enemies, to love people we don't like, to love those who maybe aren't just like us. Have you ever gone into protection mode when you have an issue with somebody? You ever done that one? I'm good at that. I know how to do that. I don't like somebody. I'm mad at them. I don't talk to them. I have that way. Now you know that. If I walk by and don't talk to you, you could just say, "Hey, Pastor, you mad at me?" I'll say, "Check with Kathy." I can build a wall as fast as anybody else. It's really not that hard. I can look back and I can say, look at that beautiful wall I built. It's a masterpiece. And now, wow, I won't get hurt here. And that's kind of what we do, because it's like, I'm not going there, I'm not getting involved, I'm not getting wrapped up in your nonsense. So I'll build a wall and I'll protect myself and I'm fine with God. But it's not what Jesus says. Jesus says it's not fine. Go and clear that mess up. Get it right. As far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. My personality is created to endure heartbreak. I just always believe that. Kind of like Tigger. How many of you remember Winnie the Pooh? He's that animal. If you're sanguine, then you understand you have an extra ability that not all personality types have, and that's to adapt. And Tiggers adapt better. Maybe it's because they're not really as smart as everybody. I don't know, but we just have a way of letting things go and moving on. You just keep bouncing until you find somebody else that likes you. Because you eventually will. You know what? So it's like, not everybody in the world is going to like you. Not everybody's going to like your personality. Not everybody's going to like your style. And that's okay. But there are people that will like you. And so our place as Christians, as saints of the Lord, as disciples of Jesus Christ, is to love people. Not just the ones we really, really like and connect with. Just keep bouncing.